You're listening to Sirius XM Insight. And this is Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang.
You, Greg Cope White, were serving in the Marine Corps long before the age of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and long before our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters were able to serve openly. And you document it in your new book that's been acclaimed by everybody from Margaret Cho to Norman Lear. What a pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you for having me. You know, you brought up a lot of good things in your introduction, little points that we could pick up and talk about, including Louisiana. I joined the Marine Corps in New Orleans, and it was not progressive when I was there. There was a serious race problem in the city, as there is now.
Yeah.
And I went to a really rough, mostly black high school. And so when I got into the Marine Corps, I still was not, even though I'd had that indoctrination, I still wasn't ready to share a barracks with black guys, Puerto Rican guys. I'd never had that in my whole life. If you can't tell from my bio, the one thing it doesn't say is white guy. And I also had to lie and cheat to get in the Marines. You know, it was just flat out illegal at that point to sign up to be gay. And I knew I was gay. I was 18 years old. But I kind of thought that I was doing them a favor because the Vietnam War had just ended, and I figured they need guys.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know what I was doing. You know, when my friend called and told me that he was signing up and he was going to spend the summer in Parris Island in Marine Corps boot camp, all I really heard was summer and camp. I thought, I love summer camp.
So but you had to have had some idea of what you were in for. I mean, were you in a place
in the Marines?
Were you in a place where had you finished high school?
I did, and I'd finished at 16. I graduated early. However, I was raised by a single mom, so I didn't have anybody in my family that had served in the military that I knew of, and I didn't play Army as a kid. I played with Ken dolls. I don't know if that counts. Maybe some camouflage outfit. But I really didn't. I didn't know what I was doing. And I noticed when I got down there, some of the posters did not look like I looked like. And when they started asking questions and they asked if I was gay, look, I wasn't ready to have that conversation with anybody at 18 years old, certainly not in front of a hyper-masculine U.S. Marine.
Did they use the word gay when they asked, or did they use the word homosexual?
And they slow it down. Are you a homosexual?
It's actually a homosexual, I think. Was
in New Orleans it was.
Yeah, a homosexual.
And so I instantly lied, and I had to lie several times. And, you know, they ask you over and over, are you having any homosexual thoughts? And I looked at him and I thought, I'm kind of having one right now.
Now, do they ask all recruits that many times, or did they just ask you that many times?
I did not even go in dragging a Madonna poster or anything like that. I don't know what they sensed.
Weird back in the early
in the 70s,
and it's before Don't Ask Tell, so they couldn't even, you know, they could have asked, and I didn't tell. And then the worst part was that once I had accomplished that, I thought it was over, and then I failed the physical. I did not weigh enough to get in the Marines.
Wow.
But if you read the book, that you'll find out how I got in. So technically, I lied and cheated to get in the military. I served 6 years. I became a sergeant, but I guess I was a bad employee the whole time for lying and cheating.
Well, hang on. I got to go back to the beginning, though, because you had to know. I mean, you weren't just going for the infantry. You were going for the Marine Corps.
Well, you know, the gays like the best. We like an upgrade.
I don't dispute it, and I've known many gay Marines in my life, both closeted and otherwise. But you had to have some sense of the grueling process that you were embarking on.
I had heard my best friend, we went in together. We went in the buddy system. His dad was a retired Marine. And we were scared to death of this guy. So I knew that it was serious and I knew that it was tough. And again, I'd never run a mile. I'm from Texas. If we want to go to the corner, we'd drive. So I'd never run. I'd never participated in sports. I moved around a lot as a kid. I'd been to 13 schools in 11 years. I literally think I graduated at 16 because there was some sort of clerical error from all those records. They're like, I think you're done. And so I
finished high school at 16 as well.
Did you skip a grade? Or
yeah, I did.
So I didn't. I think I didn't have a senior year as well.
I didn't have a senior year. That's what I skipped.
I had enough credits.
Exactly. Got out.
Right. But also from moving around, I had no confidence. From being aware of my sexuality from the point for being a little kid, and society sitting here telling me that my basic nature is wrong.
Exactly.
I had no confidence.
And you're in the South. I mean, there's very few places in the 70s where you could be out and have a sense of decency and pride for who you were.
And it's still tough. There's still parts, you know, where people are really getting hassled. I'm hoping that if anything, someone reads the book and thinks, well, look, if this guy can become a Marine, I can at least go outside and feel a little safer.
But, you know, I love the humor you bring to it. But I have to imagine you were looking for some kind of profound change in your life. Did you think that joining the Marine Corps would either change you as a man, or not to say not make you gay, but just change you as a man personally, or take you away from the only life you'd known?
I actually, both of those. I definitely wanted to see if there was something there that might be a permanent place for me, but I also was looking to sharpen my definition of my masculine role in society, because I didn't see it. I did not see me as a masculine guy. I don't have a hairy chest. I don't have a deep voice. I was really skinny, clearly, because I failed the physical, but I did not see anybody that looked like me that in my mind I thought was manly.
And this is something that I think every straight guy and every gay guy has to go through in adolescence or young adulthood.
I think so too. We're constantly comparing ourselves to everybody,
Right.
Body image. And I just didn't know anything. I didn't play team sports as a kid, so I'd never showered with a group of people. I didn't really know, but I definitely didn't see anything in the media that was promoting the gay lifestyle in a positive light. We had Uncle Arthur on Bewitched. We had everybody
was
else.
positive.
And I didn't feel like I was a joke. So
Yeah.
I certainly wanted to find something. Now, was joining the Marine Corps the smartest thing to do to find my place in the masculine world? It was for me, because I learned that everybody's different and that everybody comes in, especially into boot camp, with their own secret. Look, the first guy that got kicked out of our platoon was kicked out because he couldn't read or write.
Wow.
How about that secret to carry around every day? That's a lot of pressure.
Do you, looking back, have a bit of credit to give your younger self for the bravery it took to go to Paris Island?
I do.
That's not something shallow people do.
I can't believe I survived, but I do credit myself for making it through the interview process, doing what I had to do to get in physically, and then learning the system and excelling. I'm not going to give away some spoilers and things that happen in the book, but for the first time in my life, I was doing something well.
Mm-hmm. Now, your intelligence must have, what you lacked in physical force, you made up for, of course, in intelligence, because they don't let chimps become officers in the Corps.
And it does help. After this book, after this is enlisted boot camp, I was recruited to go into officer candidate school over my hair. I was in college and I was still in the regular Marines, and my CO saw me and my hair was a little bit longer than it was supposed to be, but I was in a play. And so he cornered me and he said, "I'm going to cut your hair." And I said, "But I'm in a play." And he's asked if I was in college, and I said, "I am." And he said, "Would you like to go to officer candidate school?" And I said, "Would it make you not cut my hair?" He said, "It would." So I also...
That's a lot of trouble to go through to not get a haircut.
And I went to, well, it was a really good part. But I went on to officer candidate school. So in essence, I went to boot camp 3 times.
Why do you think he sought you out and asked you to go? And do you think he knew you were gay?
I don't think he knew that I was gay, but I think he probably appreciated that immediate candor in the hallway. He was holding a pair of scissors. And so maybe he thought, this guy might be able to make this sort of a quick decision on the battlefield.
When you were serving for all those years, was there anyone you could confide in about your sexuality?
My best friend knew from the point we went in together. And I applaud him. You know, if you want to ask somebody about acceptance, don't ask me, ask him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been fantastic our entire life. We've been best friends since we were 13. But I did have some friends in officer candidate school. And I did date a Marine immediately after boot camp. And so clearly there was some confiding there.
Well, of course. That's what they call it nowadays, huh?
Yeah, that's the term.
But it's really inspiring. One of the things, there's a few things I love about your book. One of them is that, yes, of course, there have always been gay soldiers serving, just like there's always been gay priests. There's been gay people in every vocation known to man. But also the frustrations that you endured as you worked to conquer the very demanding physical requirements of becoming an officer.
I wasn't aware that they train as hard as they do. Of course, I'd had no physical training my entire life.
None.
So one of the disciplines that I had to come up with or had to conquer was carrying weight while I ran, because I was already so thin and so small, and we have to carry the exact same amount. So the pack is almost 70 pounds.
Yeah.
The M16 is almost 9 pounds. So you're running, 4 or 5 miles with that, and you've got an 8-pound steel helmet.
And you would never run a mile in your life.
Probably hadn't run 100 feet.
This is like the first 20 minutes of Captain America before he gets zapped in the thing. I mean, how did you do it? That's my question for you, Greg, because to me, it's extremely daunting. And
It goes back to the mind.
Tell me.
It goes back to what you said about intelligence. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but you have to use your brain. And if you tell yourself you can take one more step, and you tell yourself that you can run 50 more feet or 100 more feet, you can actually do it.
When you see people who are struggling just to get to the gym, I mean, do you ever want to give them counsel?
I'm very proud when I see someone that's overweight running anywhere. If they're running just at a snail's pace, but they're out on the street and they're running, I'm so proud because they are making an effort. And we should all applaud anybody that wants to do something like that. I know a lot of people throw things at those people outside of their car. Those people are making an effort. I would love everybody to know that your brain gets you through everything.
My guest is writer and TV host Greg Cope White. He's the author of the excellent memoir, The Pink Marine, chronicling his years in the Marine Corps. That is probably a much more common story than many would realize. Since you've written the book, or in the years succeeding your time in the Corps, have you had other members of the armed forces who also lived in silence who came out and shared their stories with you?
I have. Social media is amazing. You find people that send me tweets or send me a Facebook message that are feeling some sort of kinship to the story. Somebody wrote a wonderful review on Amazon. I don't know him, but he said, as a former Marine, I can't believe I was laughing and crying hearing my story and reading my thoughts.
Well, I think that's the great appeal of the book, is that it's so funny, and your writing style is so. This could have easily been a morose, tragic story of pain and hardship, and you just find the funny everywhere. It's your prose style is so balanced with the wit and as well as the heaviness.
Thank you. That sitcom writing came in handy.
Yeah, I'll say one thing that's an amazing dynamic of the book, which I think a lot of people, especially a lot of young gay people, wouldn't understand, is the anxiety you went through, so fearful that your sexuality would be discovered.
I didn't want to get beat up. I think there's not a person in the world, whether you're gay or straight or black or white or whatever, that wants to get beaten up, unless you're getting $5 million to get in the ring with Tyson, which I totally would. But for the money. But you live with these anxieties about how people are perceiving you. Look, you meet me today, you're not going to guess that I'm a former Marine. I'm great with that because in my heart, I know I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I think, however...
Well, likewise, there's a lot more diversity in the Marine Corps than the average civilian gives it credit for.
Exactly. And there are people, to be an officer, you do have to have a college education. So we are being led by great people.
You're listening to Sirius XM Insight. And this is Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang.
Tell me a bit more about, the fear. I mean, did you ever have any close calls where you were almost discovered?
I did. The problem was that there were times when I was bullied, even in the Marine Corps and even in boot camp. I talk about it in the book. I was cornered. I was accused, and they would accuse me in a weird way. I had a couple of guys that would make fun of the fact that I looked pretty. You shave your head, and it's all your eyes pop if you shave your head.
Yeah.
And so being slammed against a wall and told I was pretty. There was something threatening, like I didn't know if I was going to get beaten up or raped.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a bunch of guys.
And getting berated for being gay in the armed forces, that happens to a lot of people that aren't gay, right? It's my impression is kind of just a common.
The drill instructors call you faggot,
and they call you ladies. Well, from all the movies, they always say ladies.
And they do. And for me, every time I heard faggot, for me, I heard my name because I thought, oh shit, they know. How did they know? But they're calling everybody that. And soon, I am, I've definitely become desensitized to that sort of abuse.
Do you, looking back on it, think that you had to achieve a level of toughness that the average straight Marine is never going to have to access?
I do. I think I got some scar tissue built up.
I'm serious.
Yes. What was the famous quote? Is it Ginger Rogers had to do everything Fred Astaire did except backwards and in high heels?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to carry the burden of my sexuality as well as keep up with everyone else. It pays off in every situation in the civilian world too.
How so?
Well, if I'm in an interview or a new situation, I think I go in with a little more confidence and a little more strength than I would had I not had military service.
Right. It's really impossible to overstate the importance of your friend Dale in this story, isn't it?
He's amazing. He's amazing.
And this is going back to before you went into the Marine Corps.
We met when we were 13, and when we had the conversation, when I said, I'll go with you, he never said, you can't because you're gay. He said, you can't because you've never run a mile. You have no physical fitness.
Mm-hmm.
That was his only concern. We both kind of forgot about it. So today when we laugh about it and talk about it, and we do, he lives in LA too. We're still best friends. He's a doctor. which, as you know, from the way that I had to pass the physical, that pays off. But I get to have conversations with him in shows and in meetings, and he's going to be with me at Book Soup in LA on January 29th. And it's emotional to be on the same stage with him.
And he was someone you were able to come out to in high school.
I was. I sort of like our dear friend Holland Taylor last week.
Yep.
I really wasn't ever in. So to me, I was always just sort of out and myself. And Dale made that possible. Because when you have a best friend that you can confide in and you're comfortable with, I sort of had a level of assurance to just live my life.
I have had the pleasure of doing several military shows, and I'll never forget doing one.
Thank you for that service.
Oh, well, hey, listen, it's a pleasure. I mean, arguably the best audiences in the world. And I was in Honduras on an Air Force base and talking with the soldiers because it was the week that they were lifting Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And to a man, Greg, every soldier was embarrassed of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Because they all, by that point, the debate had raged all through the 90s. They didn't care who was gay and who wasn't. And the Marine Corps had outgrown, at least, I'm sorry, this was the Air Force. They had outgrown that layer of homophobic conditioning that society puts on young men.
And because when you're in it, when you're in the Marines, the sense of camaraderie that you get is real. Being gay in the military, in my experience, I didn't have a problem with my fellow Marines. The problem is the government administration, the people in our society that make phone calls and raise hell with their congressmen, and then congressmen who have no business enacting legislation that they do. That's who formed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, and looking back on it, you had, Colin Powell, you had all these people saying it would undermine unit cohesion. I'm like, I hear unit cohesion. That sounds like, aren't all the units supposed to come together?
We are trained to be one person, and there is not a person that I'm in the service with that I wouldn't take a bullet for, and there's not another person that I served with that I feel totally confident wouldn't for me. We have bigger issues at stake if we're in a battle.
Exactly. In that sense, I applaud the military for being leaders. They're leaders on affirmative action. They're leaders on green energy, no doubt. I mean, they've the military is really talking about how we need alternative fuel, so we're not dependent on the foreign oil we keep going to war for.
Yeah, and I hope we don't repeat that situation. We do have, our president right now is such an amazing humanitarian. The legislation that he's passed, I couldn't have predicted that the things that have happened in the course of my writing this book would happen. The Defense of Marriage Act had just fallen.
Mm-hmm.
There is now a hospital for transgendered soldiers.
Really?
Yes, a specific hospital.
It's amazing.
It just opened, I think, last month.
How did you feel going back to the early 90s with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell compromise? I'll never forget how much I admired how much the young President Clinton was trying to do. He didn't get to do a lot of the things he fought for, but for me as a young guy, I had never experienced a Democratic president before, and I just couldn't get over how much this man was trying to do. And he ran on allowing gay people to serve openly because, again, there were always gays and lesbians in the military.
That's right.
But and the American people elected him for that. But, Obama ran saying he closed Gitmo, and the Americans elected him for that, too.
Well, I think that I personally believe that what Clinton did was incredibly brave, and I felt really supported by his decision. Because, first off, he was having the conversation. Mm-hmm. Like you said, that was clearly in the air already. He made that legislation, and that protected a lot of people. There are still horror stories. I served with people that were kicked out before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and I know a couple of people that were kicked out even after.
I had a friend who was a Russian translator in the Navy. A Russian translator, and they kicked him out and he knew it. He was ready to leave, so he just went to his CO and just tearfully said, "Oh, I'm so confused by these feelings," and they let him out right away.
God, if anything, it did more good. It really did, because it did give us that level of protection.
How do you feel now, having people tell you how inspiring your story is to them? You're getting so many well-deserved accolades for this book and for your advocacy. Do you think that scared young man could have ever imagined the amount of support and love he would one day get from strangers?
No, I can't believe when someone comes up to me on an airplane or in a restaurant last night here in New York City, because this story is not just for people that are gay. Mm-hmm. I have, when you read my bio early on in the show, was gay in there? it wasn't one of the things.
Well, there were some show business credits.
Yeah, actually, I got to tell you, yeah.
Oh, that's true. Well, I do cook on TV. I think that might be. But I don't wear an apron.
You were acted on Another World and The Young and the Restless, so we're already in.
I was a doctor,
but you played one on TV.
Yes, I played one on TV. I do think that when I get to talk to people, especially military people, it is so gratifying and satisfying to get that. I actually love that people respond to the humor. Someone like you, a comedian that I've known and loved for so long, yeah, that's crazy to hear you think that the book is funny.
Well, what's amazing about it is this: your sense of humor is so self-deprecating, right? And I love it, and it's a delight to talk with you. And the book's got a lot of self-deprecating humor. My question is, in spite of your self-deprecating humor, how much did your service in the Marine Corps teach you to believe in yourself and increase your confidence?
It allowed me to write this book, to physically finish this book. When I said earlier that everybody, if you use your brain, you can take one more step and run wherever you have to, it takes that to write a book. Mm-hmm. So I can write I can write a blog, I can write a story, I can write a half-hour script, but to write a book took endurance that I relied on my Marine Corps training to type to the words "the end."
So that sense that you have from the Marines, that your brain can get you that extra 100 yards or whatever, you apply that as well to your creative efforts?
I totally do. You really can. It's hard to motivate ourselves every morning to get out of the bed and make those calls. We're in a business where every job ends, no matter what. The Simpsons will end. And so to find a job and go out there and keep that fight, we do have to get up. And thank God for the Marine Corps, for those drill instructors banging me awake with trash cans. I don't even need an alarm clock anymore. But
my last question, did it change the young man who entered, the direction you were looking for, the way to become a new type of version of Greg Cope White? Did the Marine Corps in the end give you what you asked it to give you?
Yes, the Marine Corps made me a better man. In every sense of the word.